Hello everyone, Ben here and welcome back to RaceRoom. We are on the grid at Imola in the TCR class. We've had a good qualifying. We're in 6th position on the grid in the Alfa Romeo. You can see us there centre of your screen, and it looks like we might be making a spot up straight away on the grid as the car that's meant to be in the 2nd place grid slot has not appeared on the grid. So we are now waiting for the lights, launch control engaged. Here we go, 5 red lights to come on, prioritising a good start here and a clean first couple of corners, and we are underway. Not a bad getaway from the grid slot. It looks like Broca alongside us will hold position in 4th. We're up to 5th then, and then we've got Mara, Molteni, and Jake has had an absolute flyer and is down as the lead of this race so far. Tries to close off the inside line on the corner, but is passed by Mara and Molteni, who in qualifying were by far the class of the field. So I am expecting that those two drivers will be quite far off into the distance through this race. As we come into the 2nd chicane, we have a little look to get around the outside and then onto the inside for the second part of the corner on Broca, but we're just not close enough to do it, so we're quite happy to settle in behind on this opening lap and just prioritise consolidating 5th place on this very busy grid of cars. 24 runners, 2 retirements already, as cars did not make the start. And we come round the left-hander here, just trying to remain close to this leading pack and hopefully capitalise on any mistakes that drivers in these early laps might make. We're closing right up onto the rear wing of Broca there, through what is really the most challenging complex of corners on the lap. We're not going to be close enough to have a look down the inside here, but we do shape to the inside, partly to just put a bit of pressure on Broca, but also with Cloud in our rear view mirror just 5/10 behind. I also didn't really want to give him any invitation to put a dive bomb down our inside, so by shaping to the inside I hopefully deterred him from doing that. The 2 most important corners on the lap though are here, right here at the end of the 3rd sector. You need a good exit onto what is a huge long straight as you come across the start finish line, and we have got a better journey through those 2 corners. And look at the closing speed we've got now on Broca as we come to the end of lap 1. We're going to be able to get alongside into the 1st chicane here of the lap, but we've had to come to the outside as he's shaped to defend on the inside. That's going to give him the high ground into the corner. He gets on the brakes. We're going to have to just slot back in behind him and hope we get another good run coming out of the 1st chicane and into the 2nd. We're very close behind here. Within 0.2 of a second we're going to come to the inside again, partly to just ward off Cloud from having a go behind us because he's very close by. Broca's got it all wrong through the 2nd chicane. We avoid making contact, but he's dipped a tyre into the gravel on the outside. We're actually ahead as we go in to the hairpin. We ran it a little bit deep, but partly that was deliberate to give him space on the inside. We're side by side still coming out of the corner. He's got a nose ahead, but we've got better drive out of the corner, which means we're now got a nose ahead coming into the left-hander, but we're on the outside. That's going to force us wide, and he swoops back in underneath us to keep the position. Look at how close we are though, following him down less than 1/10 of a second, almost pushing him through the corner. We have to back off slightly because I want to take this corner safely, and that has given him just a little bit more breathing space as we come out of what was a very hectic few corners of close racing in the TCR class. No contact as far as I'm aware, which is quite amazing given how close we were running to one another. And there we've made a mistake. We've just ran wide out of the tight chicane and we've got a slow down penalty. I'm going to try and spend that before we get to the main straight. So I've come off the gas here. I'm just rolling the car down the hill because it's a very difficult place to overtake. So I've got to get that out of the way before we get onto the straight, and we have done. And that means we've paid a penalty for that track extension, but it hasn't ruined our race. We've been able to spend it in a way which cost us the minimum amount of damage. Let's take that opportunity then to look back on the opening lap or 2 from the race and that fantastic battle with Broca. Here we go, coming down to the first corner for the first time. Look at how congested the track is with cars 2-3 wide coming into the chicane. One car in the background gets it wrong, that's a Cupra going off track, but virtually everybody else has managed to negotiate that opening set of corners, which is not easy at Imola and in these cars without too much drama. We can see then we're coming through in 5th position, just with a nose out to the inside to try and put a bit of pressure on Broca up ahead, but it doesn't work, and we settle down into 5th place into the middle sector of the lap, coming around the hairpin. Nice and tight line there as we're just getting tyres up to temperature, and then we switch to the end of the lap as we're able to get a much better run through this final set of corners than Broca up ahead, and that is going to set up all of the overtaking opportunities that then follow into the next lap. Run the car out wide there, get off the gas and just get an early turn in, which then allows you to get on the power earlier on corner exit. This is the benefit of doing so. It means we're right on his rear wing into the first chicane, but Cloud has followed us through as well, so it's really a three-way battle for 4th position. That means I'm going to have to show to the inside. Look at that, Cloud is showing to my inside, so I have to just ward him off that move by coming to the centre of the track myself. Broca though makes a mistake on the exit of the second chicane. He dips some tyres into the gravel. That means we're alongside. Unfortunately, we just get a little bit hot into the hairpin. I did want to run it wide because I didn't want to close him off and make contact, but not quite that wide, which means we're now fighting side by side coming up the hill. I don't have that advantage anymore. In fact, he's got the advantage of the inside of the next corner, and he swoops back in front of us to maintain position. But look at how close we're running. I'm practically pushing him down the hill. That though is a little bit dangerous coming into this set of corners, so I do just tactically ease off a little bit, make sure that I make the corner, and have to settle basically for remaining in 5th position for the time being. We rejoin then just a lap later, and you can see the gaps have remained pretty well as they were. I've got Cloud behind me about half a second back, Broca up ahead about 3/4 of a second up the road. Jake has kind of disappeared a couple of seconds up into 3rd position and is holding the final podium spot, and as predicted, Molteni and Mara are having a very close battle. You can just see them up the road there, but they are a good 5 seconds clear of us already, just a third of the way into this race. We still have a queue of cars pretty well all the way down to 10th behind us, but I think I've got decent pace on them, and that this really is a battle between myself, Broca and Cloud for 4th, 5th and 6th position, and we just have to hold our nerve a little bit and not push too hard trying to close up on the back of Broca up ahead. But you can see we've made a 10th or 2 through the first sector of the lap. He's ran slightly wide there on the exit of the left-hander. We're going to come down and try and push through this part of the track and just get up on his rear wing, but actually we just about make the corner. We nearly push too hard in that instance, and we get a single incident point for running wide on exit and invalidate the lap time. But that's the sort of pressure I'm trying to apply on him, and it's such a fine balance between pushing enough to remain big in his rear view mirror but not pushing too much that you end up making a mistake and costing yourself lots of time. We flash forward then to the very next lap, and you can see that the gaps between the cars are pretty well consistent, but we have dropped the group behind us. So Marty is now in 7th place, a good 3 seconds back, and it remains just 3/4 of a second up the road to Broca and about half a second back to Cloud behind us. Through the left-hander again, then we take a nice apex there and maintain our speed through the exit of the corner. But inexplicably, what comes up here, I try and hold this in 5th gear through the corner, and that's never going to work, and that leads me to have to take really big action to keep the car from sliding out, and unfortunately we get another slow down penalty. Truthfully, if I hadn't got a penalty for that, I might have considered giving the position to Cloud behind us, because it really was a bit of a track extension, even though I was able to hold the car and get back on the track. But because now we're having to deal with another slowdown penalty in this part of the course, I decide that if he's able to get past us as I'm slowing down, well, fair enough, but I'm not going to give him the position. You can see though I am unsettled in the car. That was a poor journey through that corner, which has cost us more time, but we've got a decent exit onto the main straight, which then allows us to put a little bit of a gap back to Cloud. But you can see we've lost a good second to Broca up ahead from making that mistake and then not regathering ourselves quickly enough afterwards, having to serve that slowdown penalty. And all of a sudden now we're on the defensive from Cloud. Rather than putting pressure on Broca, we're having to think about, can we maintain this position, which is not the position that we want to be in. We want to be pressing forward and trying to maintain pressure on the podium spots. We've got Cloud then shaping for our move down our inside, but thankfully he thinks better of it. Very, very difficult to make a pass into this part of the track. So I suspect he was just trying to exert some more pressure on us, that we might make a mistake, run wide in the corner, and he would be able to get past us and up into 5th position himself. So I've got to reset here then and try and get over this mistake. Let's take a look at that mistake now and just see how close we came to essentially ruining our race. You can see we're sideways into that apex. I've got to get out of it, and thankfully we just avoid ploughing into the gravel trap. We rejoin the live action then with just 5 minutes of the race left. We've managed to drop Cloud behind us a little bit, and we are slowly but surely inching forward towards Broca up ahead, although the gap is still 2 seconds, which is disappointing given how close we were previously. So our pace between 4th, 5th and 6th, very, very similar at the moment. But if you look up ahead and the line that Broca takes through that corner, it's quite strange, and he's slow out of the second chicane. And all of a sudden we reeled him in by half a second coming into the hairpin. So maybe he's just got that line wrong through there. As we're coming now up the hill, we're within a second of him, so he's definitely running slow. And we might have an opportunity through the second half of this lap. He gets on the brakes, and look at that, he's absolutely out of shape, and he squirms off to the right hand side and into the gravel trap, and all of a sudden we're up into 4th position from what looked like a bit of a hopeless cause of trying to get back on the rear wing of Broca. Something's clearly happened there, and either he's got a puncture or he's got suspension damage. Either way, he has tumbled down the field. He's now in 10th position as we get into the braking zone of the chicane, and Cloud closes up behind us once again. But he's falling all the way down the field as we come through to the second half of this lap. So we'll take a little look back to see if we can understand what happened to Broca there. But it just goes to show you can never tell what is going to happen on the racetrack, and until that checkered flag waves, anything can happen, and you've got to keep your pace up so that you can take advantage of those sorts of episodes. Broca down to 11th now. Let's go on board with him then and just see how he navigates the second chicane. He takes a lot of curb there. He's out of shape on the exit. And I wonder, given he's almost on the grass verge then, on the exit of the corner, he must have sustained damage coming over that curb, and either he's wrecked his suspension or he's picked up a puncture as a result. He tries to keep going up the hill to see whether he can keep going with that damage and drive around it, but in the braking zone here of the left-hander, clearly he's turning left, the car's turning right, and he's straight into the gravel, and we are able to get back past him. And eventually you can see then he is crawling back into the pits to try and repair whatever damage he has taken on. We rejoin then on the very last lap of the race. We're still in 4th position. We've managed to essentially gap Cloud behind us to anywhere between half a second and a second. The gap has been. So we've managed to essentially ward off any close challenge from behind. We're slowly but surely coming up on the back of Jake as well. That gap was 4 seconds. You can see it has come down now, but I actually think he's probably just bringing the car home rather than us powering onto his rear wing. But again, as we've just seen there with Broca, it is worth keeping our pace up here. Not least because we have to keep Cloud behind us, but we just don't know what issues Jake might be carrying to the end of this race. But I'm not really imagining we're going to get on the podium at this stage. It is just about bringing the car home. We ran a pretty solid race here, all in all. A couple of moments where we just pushed a little bit too hard. And we were at risk really of getting collected into a bigger incident all of our own making. We've had to serve a couple of slowdown penalties as a result, but we were able to do that in a smart way, which minimised the damage to our race in the end. Final word on the car that I'm driving here, the Alfa Romeo. I think this might be the TCR that suits my driving style best. Of all of those that I've tried, I've got a sort of tendency to not want to thrash the car around, but actually have quite minimal steering inputs. You might have seen that through the course of this race, and it seems that the Alfa Romeo responds quite well to that as we come through the final corner of the lap. Cloud is not going to get alongside us. We've got enough of a gap back to him as we come across the start finish line for a really positive 4th place finish. Very, very happy with that, particularly given the top 2 were essentially in a league of their own and we weren't ever going to challenge them for position. This was definitely the maximum result we could realistically expect from this race. Here then is the classified results from the session. Really, really enjoyable. Encourage you to give this combination a try. The TCR cars are just guaranteed fun, essentially, no matter whether you're fighting towards the front or in the mid-pack. Broca, unfortunately, ended up being right at the back, so commiserations to him. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, leave a like, get subscribed, and I will see you next time.